This is crazy shit. I don't even know what to ask him. I thought I could be organic, and I have no fucking clue what to ask him. It's crazy. Like, I've watched Homeland. I know this sounds so stupid, but that's like what I can do to relate to what you're talking to, because I've seen all this stuff, and it's just...
I carry you like I carry my pack, even if I don't come back.
Welcome back, Warriors. We're here today with a wonderful guest, Jamie Farmer. He is a 20-year military veteran, correct?
Correct.
Oh, thank goodness. I thought I was going to screw that up. Okay, so you are a Army combat... Nope.
Yep.
An Army engineer... Combat engineer? Mm-hmm. I had it right the first time. Yeah. Okay, so an Army combat engineer. Yep. So somebody like me has no idea what that is, but don't worry, I Googled it today. So tell me a little bit about what that is, and for the viewers that have no idea, like I didn't.
The best way we explain it when we tell people that don't have an idea what a combat engineer is, we blow stuff up.
Stuff, like anything. All kinds of stuff? People?
If we have to. All right. Anything and everything. So we breach into buildings. We look for IEDs. We blow those up sometimes. Obstacles. These are huge operations that it would take hours to explain it. But offense, defense, mobilization, demobilization, we can do everything.
So I took that in after I was Googling it, and there was this long list of job duties or different things that you could do. So all the different things, you're right, it could take an hour to talk about these things, mm-hmm. because I saw bridges and, I don't remember half the things that I saw, but I saw, training teams. Is that something that you did? I mean, tell me a little bit about what your role was.
So when I first joined the Army, I was the grappling guy, a grappler. So literally a grappling hook that you see on TV where guys throw on top of the building. And we did it differently. We would do that through a minefield. So we'd throw a grappling hook through a minefield, and then we'd, if it was clear, we look for booby traps, clearing the minefield so we can actually blow them up. This was probably World War II type stuff. As fast forward, to OIF-1, they turned combat engineers into route clearance, where we would go look for IEDs, find them, either call EOD or we would blow them up ourselves. Most of the time, we would find them before they found us. Sometimes they found us.
That's some scary shit. Like, maybe not for you, but for me, when you talk about these things, like, that's not everyday normal things. Like, that's crazy. You're like a real life MacGyver. What's OIF?
Operation Iraqi Freedom. That is so. In 2003, when we started, we pushed into Iraq. I was part of the whole thing. So route clearance didn't start until probably 2004. Just after we got there, and they started making small bombs. Take a Coke can, put some explosives in it, and try to blow up one of our trucks. As we adapted to that, they adapted to make them bigger, and we would get bigger. And then it was back and forth the entire time. What I did in OIF-1, though, I drove a tank that it was remote control, and it would go through. You can take it through minefields, and you're here on a computer, and you're controlling a 30-ton tank. Then 2004, didn't need the tank. We needed route clearance. It saved a lot of people's lives. So
this is crazy shit. I don't even know what to ask him. I thought I could be organic, and I have no fucking clue what to ask him. It's crazy. Like, I've watched Homeland. I know this sounds so stupid, but that's like what I can do to relate to what you're talking to, because I've seen all this stuff, and it's just, it's crazy so you talk about this, you talk about it to me like it's every day. Tell me about your craziest day in combat. Like,
I would say, man, there's a lot. A lot of them I blacked out, forgot about. It's just a mechanism that my body does. So one of the things, okay, it's coming to my mind right now. So OF1, we were going in its objective Peach. Peaches. If anybody was ever in 2001 or 3 in OF1, they know exactly what Objective Peaches is. We were standing there at a compound and we're looking for the WMDs that everybody thought was in Iraq at the time. And we're pulling security and I look down on the ground and I see a leg of an enemy combatant. Just a leg, nothing else was there. So I'm like, all right, sweet. That was a leg.
Better an enemy than a friend, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then, so the one of the probably the worst time, it wasn't even when I got hurt. It was when a good friend of mine got hurt, and he was actually killed. We were doing route clearance, but when we first started out, it wasn't the awesome vehicles that they gave us that were safe from explosions. It was Humvees and literally dudes on the ground with metal detectors walking a road detecting explosives. And my truck missed it. It ran right over top of it. And then the guy behind me, he was driving a small tank. And he stopped and parked because we stopped and the guys were looking at something on the ground at the dismounts. And next thing you know, a big explosion. And I looked back and the tank behind me was just completely destroyed. I was in a Humvee. The only thing that saved my life is because I had what they call it was electronic warfare signals. We would electronic pulse.
We'll go with that. I have no idea
Yeah,
if you're right or wrong. So
it was a scramble. It was scramble signals, so they wouldn't blow us up. I had it in my Humvee. The guy didn't have it in his tank. It was a small 113 APC. He died. The driver died immediately. One of the guys got ejected. The medic got hurt. That's probably the craziest, wildest thing I've ever seen because I lived, because I drove right over top of it. But there's a saying in the military: when it's your time to go, it's your time to go. Nothing you can do about it.
yeah, I mean that's. Nobody's ever left me speechless, and I almost feel like I'm speechless right now. I can't imagine watching or feeling so. I mean, at that point, what do you just feel luck? Like, okay, well, it wasn't me, but then how did I?
It didn't hit me. I was mad because there's so many things that the military can do to make it better for us and easier for us, but there's nothing you can do. I mean, when it's your time to go, and I'm sure that's across every branch in the military, or even civilians. I mean,
I feel like that's in every branch. As a cancer survivor, it's like if this is my time and this is how I go out, then this is how I go out. But
yeah.
So after this incident, how do you react to that? What do you do? I mean, you're probably in this state of, holy shit, that could have been me. Does that ever go through your head? And then how do you react to help the situation?
Well, yeah. So what it was, the explosion, it was an IED.
So can you tell us what an IED is for those?
Improvised explosive device. So you can take anything that blows up, put some electronics on it, some a primer, anything like that, a remote control, cell phones, just like a bomb that people see on TV. Make a phone call, it blows up. It's exactly the same thing. Or wires. You run a wire to a certain point, and you hide. You click the button, and it sends an electric pulse, and blows up.
So that's not just in the movies. That's
real life.
Because, we see that as people that have never been in the military, somebody like me, I know that's real life. I have family that's been in the military, but a lot of times in the movies you think, this is just bullshit. This is just, but this is real life for you.
Oh, absolutely.
So how do you react when something like that happens?
So one thing that's helped me for 20 years is you have to accept it. As in, there's going to be casualties of war. And what we did was a war, trying to find anything that we could, possibly Al Qaeda, Taliban, all those things. When we deploy, you're going to understand that there's casualties in war, and so I accepted that. So it sucked, and everybody was upset and sad, and we were more mad than we were anything. So we wanted to find the people who did this. It's just like any type of a police officer gets killed. We want to find who killed the police officer. Same thing with the military, except for we're way way more
You see way more casualties, right?
that, and or like what do you say, rough. Like we go in raiding an area, we're not going to take it lightly. We went in there and we kicked some ass, and take some, find whoever we could. So if they were
Right.
bad guys, we found them.
So you've been in combat. How many times have you?
4.
4 times. That's a lot. So you've lost many friends, partners. How do you mentally cope with that? How do you get through that?
That's a good question. I like to call it, it's like I won't say it's a gift, but everything that's happened to me in 39 years, where you can just push it down, put it away, and never see it again. It's like a brick wall or metal wall that built up. Hopefully one day it never comes out. But
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask. So you bury these things and it just becomes a part of you, and then you just hope one day that it doesn't.
Yeah, I hope one day it never comes back. There's still certain things that being around crowds or something like that. You always going to a restaurant, which every veteran knows. When you go to a restaurant, your back's to the wall and you're facing the door. You're always looking for exits. This is how we did it. So
let me ask you, you talk about restaurants, you talk about all these things. I hear a lot of people in the military have a really, really hard time with 4th of July, especially somebody I assume with your position in explosives. Does that affect you at all?
the biggest thing that affects me is probably the grand finale, because it takes so long, and then you're just doing that 1,000-yard stare, listening to all these explosions. You can feel the explosions. And then that's when your mind starts to wander. A lot of the times what I'll do is when it happens, I'll try to be engaged in some distraction. A distraction. Alcohol helps.
Right. Well, alcohol helps everything.
And then
Cheers to that.
and then talking to people, keep the distraction. But I mean, it's beautiful to see all the colors in the sky, but you can't help going back with the explosions, and you feel the shock wave. But I don't know. I did deal with it a couple times. It's gotten to me, but
Yeah, so my uncle's a Vietnam vet, and he's had a lot of flashbacks where alcohol, as you say, helps you to cope. But for him, it was the exact opposite. It would put him in this mindset where he would then grab his weapons and he would go out and shoot at their horses in the fields. And so he had to completely stop drinking because he would revert back. So I guess it's just... it's crazy how different people cope differently. And
it is.
so obviously there's other veterans and people that don't talk about this openly. What advice would you give to other military veterans that have gone through this? Even, to me, one tour seems like so much to internally take on. So what advice would you give to somebody that's maybe suffering or struggling the way that you have?
So one thing I've always told myself and other people, friends who are upset, sad, depressed, and it doesn't matter where or what's causing them to be depressed or sad. Combat, a divorce. My brother's going through a divorce. You got to find something that makes you happy, whatever that is. If you find something that makes you happy, you're gonna forget about all that stuff. And it's hard. It is very hard. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of time. I was gifted enough to where I can just forget it. I have a very bad memory, so there's nothing that triggers me. Some things do, like I said, the 4th of July fireworks, but I don't know. I can't explain it. Maybe it's just where I came from, the gift that I don't know, whoever gave me, but
Right.
then again, I was like, well, if I'm feeling sad or depressed, I turned to alcohol before. And that didn't work. I was like, man, and what took me out of alcohol was looking in the mirror, I'm getting fat. So I was like, man, screw that. You gotta stop drinking so much. But then I found something else that I like doing. I lived by myself for a couple of years, and I was like, well, play some video games. Sports, working out, going to the gym is one of my favorite things to do. I don't really talk to people. I'm not a talkative person. But I told my brother, who's going through a divorce and who's pretty upset, sad, depressed, you guys got to get out there, find something that you like doing, and do it. And he's been a pot smoker for for 25 years. I was like, dude, go smoke a joint. He's like, this don't work, man. It's like, well, you got to find something else that does work. You live in Florida. I mean, it's one of the coolest places in the country to live. But hey, he's getting through it. You know, talking to a family, talking about it really helps. It really does.
Well, that's awesome. I think it's very important. I think that we see a lot of, and my eyes are open to it just because of my family, and a lot of my friends are military. Like, suicide is a huge thing, and you talk about find something that helps you. And not that this is going to be a suicide prevention talk, but you said your brother, he'll smoke, he smokes weed in order to help with that. So I understand that you're an advocate of CBD and how that helps you. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah. So in Afghanistan in 2007, I didn't even bring that up yet. So got blown up. IED. I was in a Humvee. They blew up. And the guy sitting behind me, and then the fuel tank. So anybody knows familiar with the Humvee, it's inside the armor. So when it blows up, the fuel blows up too. It ignites. So the guy behind me was killed, and I was knocked unconscious. And they did all the things. The 9-line medevac. They didn't medevac me out of there. It wasn't until 3 years later I found out I broke my back during that IED. So I opted to get a spine fusion, and this was 2010.
So 3 years later, yeah.
Yep. Until this day, 10 years later, my back still hurts, regardless of the surgery and all this stuff. So either I'll do CBD or I'll do cannabis to help with the pain, but it also helps with so much more. Like, if you're having an episode, if you will, of whatever,
right,
a little bit of CBD or cannabis, it helps. It takes the edge off. You forget it. I think it distracts you from feeling whatever you're feeling. It doesn't take the pain away. It just distracts you. So I liked it, and I would tell my brother. That's why I told him, hey. And then my oldest brother, he was a sheriff, had a huge car wreck, almost died. And he had his entire side of his right body was, his knee was destroyed, his arm was destroyed, his wrist was destroyed. He's had so many surgeries. I was like, bro, you try CBD. He wouldn't even think about it. He's like, yeah, I might try that. He's the whole reason why. He's like my idol.
Okay.
So my brother, he's a couple years older than I am.
I was going to say older brother.
Yeah, he's a couple years older than me. He was a police officer. I joined the military before he joined the police force. But he might say it differently. He's too macho to say that I'm his idol. But he was my idol when it comes to working out and all this stuff. I was like, dude, CBD or whatever you can. He will never smoke weed.
Right.
But I was like, CBD. It's going to help you with a lot of those issues. And he's like, yeah, I might try it. So I'm like, well, you better, because,
it'll help.
Yeah, it'll help. But,
right. I think people are some old school. I mean, I don't know. I heard you mention earlier 39 years, so my math isn't great, but I'm assuming you're close to my age. And the little bit older, even just a couple of 5-6 years, they have that generation gap where it's hard for them to commit to something natural. And, we've been trained to think that these drugs that are provided to us from our doctors are good, and they're just not. CBD has changed a lot of people's lives, and hopefully your brother takes your advice, because I think it's a really good thing.
He said he was going to. So, like, I told him, and you're right, when you especially in Colorado, where it's legal, and a bunch of other states.
Right.
Like, and I even sometimes feel a little bit ashamed to do it, CBD, or even because it comes from the the cannabis. So I'll try to hide it, and people judge. That's the biggest thing in the world, judgers. But if whatever state you get into, California was the first one, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Colorado, I'm like, dude, that's cool. Let's do it. Try it out. It's going to help you one way or the other.
And it's changed your life. So why, people can judge all they want, but when they don't try it and it affects your life the way that it has for the better, we need more advocates like you to talk about the benefits of the CBD oils.
Yeah, they definitely.
So you talked about losing friends, and So what advice would you have to I can't imagine being out in this war, crazy wars, and you have friends that die and confidants, people that you've gone overseas with, when you can't grieve or you can't go to a funeral, and I feel like the funeral, the final part is the healing process, right? You're able to cope with that. What about these men and women that are overseas and never get that opportunity? What advice would you give to them on how to maybe cope with the loss or many losses of friends and individuals that they've spent so much time with?
Wow, it's a good question. You have each other. You want to say that. So, in the military, regardless of where you're at and what branch you're in, there's always somebody to your left and right. And if the person to your right, God forbid, happens to get killed or dies, you have someone else that's there to their right. And I don't want to say takes their place, because no one can ever take somebody else's place. But you have each other to. It's just like a family member dies, you have family to confide in. Yeah. Military is all about family. You're family with every single person that you've met. And I've been to 7 different duty stations and 4 different deployments, and I met so many different people. And you're a family to every single one of those people. So if someone gets killed in our platoon, the next person, we confide in each other. We talk to each other. There's always a chaplain, but it's the guys, the brothers and sisters that you serve with, that you're closest to. Those are the guys who help you pull out of it and help you keep moving forward. And we tell them, this is combat. This is the military. If you think about Vietnam and World War II, it's 10 times worse than what we went through. And those guys made it through. And it's like, we got to do what we got to do. So.
That's so good. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was great. Oh my gosh, I'm so enthralled. I've seriously, I've done these interviews, and this is so, I don't know, I'm so intrigued and so blown away, no pun intended, by your story. It's incredible, and you may not view yourself as a warrior, but we do, and you live the dynamic warrior lifestyle every day. And I thank you so much for being here and sharing your story for something I knew absolutely nothing about, but you've educated me and you've made me humbled to all of the things that you've been through. So thank you so much for being
thank you so much.
My guest
Awesome.
Today. And I just really appreciate you being here and sharing your story.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I can tell my story to somebody. If it helps, I can keep telling it. The way I get over things, other people aren't the same way. And I feel bad for those guys. There's a story I could tell you. We went golfing Sunday. Can I say it? We met this, he was an Air Force veteran.
Okay.
And he was in Desert Storm. And I've never seen a single person in my entire life with PTSD as bad as this guy. And he came up to us. He was our prayer, so there was 3 of us and then him. And he's like, I usually give a speech or a brief when I go golfing with people that it's the first time ever meeting me. So I got extreme PTSD. He's like, I'm telling you guys this so you don't freak out, because I literally pass out onto the ground and start going into convulsions, going through an episode. And I've never seen something like that before. It freaked me out. He did it twice while we were on 18 holes.
So this was just somebody you happened to be paired up with?
Yeah. And I'm like, he's like, usually if somebody says when I'm down on the ground, and it looks like literally they're passed out and they're having a seizure.
Right.
And he's like, usually if you yell, I got your back, or I'm here for you, whatever, just something like any brother
It'll pull him out.
Yeah, to pull him out of it. I was like, he just asked us, please just act like you're normal and nothing ever goes on. And he gets back up 5 minutes later, and nothing ever happened. I'm like, holy cow, dude.
It's crazy because, yeah, you do. You see these people and everybody processes things differently.
Yeah.
And I guess at this point you consider yourself blessed, right?
Oh, yeah.
You are able, not that internalizing is something that we want people to do, but it almost seems like the latter is so much worse. Like the fact that this guy has no, and it was just not, I mean, you couldn't do anything to avoid it. It was just a trigger within him.
Just something that came out. He said it happens 20 to 25 times a day.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, holy cow, dude.
I hope you talk to him about the benefits of CBD oil and maybe that helping him.
I'm like, dude, here's a whole ounce of weed or CBD.
Right,
Like,
right.
Just go at it, dude. But no, yeah, it freaked me out because I've never seen it, and I've never seen someone even that remotely close to that much PTSD. But it happened. I'm like, that's insane. I thought I was getting punked, actually.
Right. So did you kind of share your stories with him? I mean,
well, no,
who
I didn't.
all was golfing with you? Because first of all, if all you military veterans were paired up, it was almost a blessing for him because he was in a situation where he had to be completely transparent with you guys, right? Something that's probably not easy for somebody like him in his, 50s?
Yeah, he's probably in his 50s.
Right.
It was just him and I who were military vets, and the other guys were just, normal, just friends of ours that never served. So I was cool with it. I was like, all right, dude, I got you. Those guys, not so
The other
much.
guys.
They're like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to keep drinking.
I'm just going to drink this away, right?
But the second time it happened, me and my neighbor, he was like, all right, we're just going to respect it and not freak out. Just let it cool, go smoothly, and it does. So it was just, yeah, it was kind of weird, but
I can't imagine in my life coping with something like that. To have to preemptively tell people, expect me to pass out up to 25 times throughout 18 holes. Like that's not something that people even fathom. I would never think that somebody would have to deal with something like that.
No, it was insane. I was like, I have no idea what to tell you right now.
Right.
So
again, because you have been through the similar, and it just affects you differently.
Yeah, it affects that's the craziest part. It affects every single person differently. How we see things through our eyes is something completely different from someone else. So.
Right. And hopefully everybody can come up with a mechanism to cope like you have, and like I said earlier, veteran suicide is at a rate that is just unfathomable. And if there's anything that, we can provide to them with some knowledge or understanding of things that they can do to, get help or talk to people or even that guy. I mean, that has to be an embarrassing thing. I can't imagine passing out on a, golf course even once in my lifetime, let alone up to 25 times a day. So I'm grateful that you were at least partnered, that you guys were partnered with this guy where he could have a little bit of normalcy.
Yeah, absolutely. It was for sure. It was kind of weird, and like no one ever goes through that stuff because the first thing you do when someone passes out on the ground, you want to help them.
Right.
It's human nature. When he asks you don't do anything, just sit there and look. We're like, okay. So
how do you react when he wakes up? Are you all
yeah, like, dude, what's up, man? Let's go. Next hole, bro. It's your shot. But and one of the things like CBD, when it comes to they put a lot of military vets on. Like me, I'm on 2 different type of antidepressants, and I want to get moved away from those because one, it's drugs that chemicals that you don't need in your body. CBD is natural for your body. It helps you out. So it's not going to hurt you as bad as those chemicals that are made of drugs. So that's what I'm actually trying to move towards. A couple other things probably won't be able to get away from, but yeah.
So you talk about the chemical drugs. What would you tell people? I told myself I wasn't going to look up. I've watched all my old interviews and I look up all the time. You were supposed to be in charge of telling me to stop looking up, but I never told you were in charge of that.
You look up at the sky.
Yeah, I look to God for the answers.
The answers are up there.
So being somebody that isn't familiar with CBD, you have these people that are taking chemicals, right? And it makes them feel good, and it's something that we've been taught since we were younger. So how do you encourage people to take the more natural route and do the CBD route and get these chemicals out of their bodies? Because that is slowly killing us too. Like we can't allow doctors to just continuously prescribe us drugs. Now, I'm on a drug I have to be on to save my life, at least for the next 5 to 7 years. There's no way around that for me. CBD can help me with the side effects of my chemical drug.
Yeah.
But how do we convince people to be more aware of how safe CBD is and how much it can truly help you over the chemical drugs?
I think proof is in the pudding.
That's a good saying. I like that.
You know what I mean? So if someone who is just like I am, who, okay, I'm going to stay away from all the chemicals that they prescribe me. I'm just going to stick with CBD, cannabis, all those natural herbs. And I see this person over here who's awesome. He's doing, dude, you're just as good as I am without all this stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to stick away from that and going to go. I think it's just proof. Like, show me if it's better than this. I'm like, all right, I'll show you. And that's human nature, you know. People don't believe, what is it called? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You know, you let me see it to believe it. And that's what it is.
Or try it.
Try it.
So all of you out there that are questioning it, try it because it works.
Try it. If you don't, exactly. Try it. If it works better than whatever, and it's going to take some, adjusting. It's going to take some how much you take it at one time, how much you don't take it the other time. It's going to take some time, but. I still take the other stuff they give me for now, but I want to move over to natural because it just destroys your body after a while. So,
right. Sure.
Especially when it comes to pain. So
pain's a real thing.
Yeah, it's your mind telling you that something's wrong. But
That's
so
awesome.
forget about the pain, forget about everything else.